click on the subscribe button, and press the bell icon, to never miss any updates.
Welcome to Face to Faith. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. T.K. Nakagaki. I'm the president of the Heiwa, Peace and Reconciliation Foundation of New York and the former president of the Buddhist Council of New York. And I serve various interfaith community. Developed more recently, but so many parts in the city you will see it. And it is actually time for people to know what is interfaith is all about. And so instead of just listening to me, sometimes I wanted to invite some speaker, so you can learn from other guests as well. So today I'll continue. This is actually the third time, which is nice. That Reverend Susanna Bastrika, she's an interfaith minister, so with joining us again. And she has a lot of story to tell, and I'm enjoying listening because sometimes although I saw her many part of the interfaith occasion, but we don't have a chance to talk that many things. So
Yes.
So this is actually for me it's a interesting to learn what she does and so forth, and has been done also. And this session mainly I wanted to ask you where where we're going from now, because we talk about your past, how you have been involved for the interfaith, and then how you are currently doing all different things. And then now maybe in your eyes, what do you see from now where the interfaith activities go, or maybe from there maybe we can start.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nakagaki.
Thank you.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon, good day, good morning, whenever this program is airing. I have been thinking because of the questions that you're asking me, and I've been telling you a little bit of a narration from a personal point of view. And I can see that our interfaith ministry has expanded dramatically. And because of the sake of politically correctness, we are addressing the groups of people as individuals and no longer by their religion. Mm-hmm. And we don't target on a worship that we're going to do this or we're going to do that. We come as a global community in front of everybody to express ourselves in any way of worship. And I think it's important for us to understand that. And I appreciate all of the times that you and all of my other colleagues in interfaith invite me to participate in their event. And I, as an individual, create several circles of talks or circles of worship, or also little groups in which I speak to people, in which we can come up with an idea or a thought, like a think tank, of what can we do to betterment of the community, for the betterment of the community, of the individual. Most of the time I do chaplaincy in the hospital, so I pray for the terminally ill. But now I have my own group at the United Nations Recreation Council in which I do wellness. So this is preventive. Okay. So my ministry now has become, as an individual, preventive health, preventive environment, awareness on ecology, awareness on the individual materials and consumption. And one of the things that I'm having with all of the people from the Vigil for Peace in Central Park, 15th September 2019 on Sunday.
I'll join you too.
Yes, everybody's going to be there. We are learning because I address younger people, because I invite people with arts, with community, with music, and I do a lot of scouting, checking out what's going on. And then they invite me as a minister to express myself in prayer. And when people say prayer, they think it's targeted, boring, reading from a script. And I've gone to many prayer worships that are incredibly long, incredibly boring, and they're centered on the preacher or the whomever it does. I think that the worship is with the community. So every time we do interfaith, you notice you invite the audience to participate. We have questions and answers. We have a guest of honor, a topic like we did with Hiroshima, a topic like we did the Guru with the celebrations of meditation and Yoga Foundation. We had others with Muhammad, in which we observed the tragedy of Charlie Hebdo in the mosques in Queens. It was tragic. They cannot target a mosque because somebody got killed somewhere else. We have to educate the community that they're living in New York, that I am your neighbor, that I work together. And in reality, what I'm doing is just serving you and you're serving me. I welcome you. Not alienate you and kill you because somebody got killed. That's not a solution. It's never a solution. It's just pretty much like bullying. Hurting the little kid, it doesn't make you bigger. Insulting the woman or beating up your wife does not make her a better mother. And also at work, this is the biggest form of bullying. A lot of colleagues sabotage other people's works to get that promotion. When they get promoted and they become the chief, they have already alienated their staff. So they're never going to do a good job to keep this person. So it doesn't work. So what it is educational and important is that we create a community of teaching modalities on how to be human, how to relate to each other, how to come from love and the heart, which is a little bit cliche, and it sounds like, oh yes, love, love, love. People confuse love with service, with respect, with tolerance, with agreement, and with affinity. A lot of us like each other very much, and then something silly that somebody said makes us not like each other. And in reality, it's like, why not? And a lot of people said, oh, you talked to your ex-husband, blah, blah. Yes, he was a person I liked, but we didn't agree on working together in the household or going to special situations together, so it cannot make us lifetime partners. But in countries, like dividing a country because my neighbor doesn't like my politics or whatever, it's not about throwing the garbage in the incinerator, which is a rule that will benefit us both. It's like, oh no, if you do this kind of voting or if you like this kind of person, I'm going to put garbage in front of your door. That doesn't help you building. I said, you're putting it in the corridor. It's not helping you. Why don't we both go together? And I said, you don't like me. Let's take every garbage here and throw it to the other place of town, not in our neighborhood. And people... well, that analogy is not about discarding people. It's about relocation. It's about repurposing, rethinking, and reuniting. It's coming together to serve a purpose of discarding the things that don't work. And unfortunately, for me...
So like the spirit of interface itself is more like, the what do you call it? Instead of building a wall or some kind,
it's just
but then
removing
more like,
the boundaries.
Removing the boundaries, and then being kind of what do you call it? You can even simply talk to each other, or instead of not talking with him anymore or anymore.
I'm going to say something very, very simple, because I think being an interfaith minister and a teacher and an educator has brought me, because of my life experiences that were so challenging. I have a little farm in South America, very small. And it has like a river that crosses across. Okay. The person who sold me the plot said, this river and this side of the other river are yours. I said, fine. I didn't think of anything at the time. There was a drought in Uruguay. And the people needed the water. And everybody's like, no, it's on the plot, she's not here. And I called my neighbor and I said, you know what, open the gates. Let all the cattle, all the horses drink from the water. I'm not there, and no horse in the world is going to drink all of the water of the river. The river flows eternally. Let all the horses. And in my small community, it was 20 horses and 60 cows. It wasn't like I had America. Uruguay is very little. We have 2.5 million, 3 million people, and in my town there's only 175. Okay. So it's not like I made major, but it opened And everybody's like, oh, they threw the fences, they broke the land. And I said, and they destroyed, some of the plots. And I said, you know what? The cattle survived. You have the horses, you have the milk. We can plant some more. And they said, but look what they've done. They carried with their hoofs all of this stuff. The following year, I hadn't gone for a year, and I had it closed and rebuilt the fences and everything. I almost cried because all the cattle and the horses that came through my farm have carried the seeds of flowers from different areas. Oh. So the entire path to the river, I'm getting goosebumps, the entire path of the river was covered with flowers.
Is that right? Oh, that's pretty.
And it was blue and green flowers. And I'm like, how could this be damaged? I mean, I don't care about the fence. This is just like a gift. It was a gift. And then my neighbors just like called me and they said, they just called me now and they said, we want to breed some horses, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, fence it up, bring your cart. I'm not there. I don't have two bodies. I understand. Sometimes I wonder, it's like, how come people have a house in Cannes, in Paris, in Rome? How many bodies do you have that you can do? So the places that I have in different places, they are used. So now in the little farm, we're breeding Uruguayan native horses.
Yeah, so
it's 6 of them because it's little. But to me, just bringing new autochthonous, that's ecology and that's ministry, because the guy couldn't believe that I would let him. And that's service, ministry. And then I told him, I said, you can have Sunday school in the field and bring the people from the neighborhood to learn how to read and write.
Yeah, so that's
really,
that's like a really the beautiful story.
And it's a lifetime. It's community.
Instead of just focusing on your own, everything is my mind, but then when you just forget those boundaries, then you could create something more.
They were worried because of the fences. They were separating my plot, and I said, you know what? Open the gate. And then the guy was like, oh, your fence is my fence, and it was knocked up. I said, you know what? I'll pay for the reconstruction. But what happened? Your cows drank on my river. So it worked for both. Instead of me keeping the fence there and have all of the horses dehydrate and we collaborate, we share.
Because I remember this is a little different things, but when the space shuttle, the people who go on a space shuttle, then when you see the Earth, there's no boundary. That's like the same kind of ideas. We create our own boundary, but maybe interface is the one that somehow get rid of some of the boundary. I mean, not all the time, maybe, but sometimes it would be important to be.
I have a bone to pick on that situation because maybe I'm out of line, maybe I'm not, but when I started working for the United Nations years ago, I started with 86 countries. And now there's 193 going to 203. And what's happening is that instead of telling them, we're going to teach you how to live together, it's like, we're going to help you how to separate. So we have more separations, more flags, more countries, more alienation. And we were talking in the car today about alienation. The kids, instead of going to school and playing with each other, is like, no, he has the flu, I'm going to get him a computer, I'm going to homeschool him, don't let him go to the society, don't let him play in the street. Then, we have celebrations, and now I see people separating because of political reasons. They don't visit each other's friends because they don't like what they're thinking. We're creating mitosis, division. We're splitting up like cells, separating. And I don't know if it's Napoleon or some kind of leader or general said, divide and conquer. And the more little countries that are not together with a back force is just going to create more alienation and more control for the superior. That's how the bullies are. They get a big monopoly. They antagonize this little kid with this little kid. And now we can get them one at a time and have monopoly. No, I think this happened in my lifetime. That's what I talk about community building. A little girl, which I know, who's a friend of mine's daughter, was very little, and she was bullied very much in school. And it happened this year today, in the vigil last year too. This other little girl, she was very afraid to go to school. And she had other little girls that were small and little and tiny and wore glasses and braces, and they got together and they created a group of 10 of them. So the 10 of them were more than the 3 bullies.
Okay.
So instead of being alone, so they walked as a group of 10 in front of the bullies. So they created like a little wall and a little walk. So they knew there were too many, so they can call the teacher. And they had like a telephone. Now with the systems of the telephonics, they texted each other.
You can do.
They could be useful. So they texted each other. Oh, they're on the corner. Just come and help me. And they had that group, and they created their own group for their own school, for reading, for all of the nerdy, bad bullying things. This is like the football team, the pretty captains, blah, blah, blah. But they had the cheering contest, the ballet, the violin, and they had a fantastic group. And now that group is big and is respected, and they're famous. So that is a lifetime experience. There's another friend of ours whom we've met, Iran Nazario, who was from a gang, and he also utilized in schools this kind of system, and he succeeded. And September, I have Eleni. Remember Eleni and her mother came, and she sang and danced a song against bullying, because she's making awareness to the children, and now for the UN she's being utilized, and her song is #1. So come on, that's a way to do ministry. Individual ministry on the human level.
So in a way, you sounds like you're saying that this interfaith, way of life could lead something better in our future, or in our society, or possibly you and where you are. I'm not sure, but since you are involved in a lot of parts of the UN, do you see anything in terms of maybe the future, like the I think 2 years from now will be 75th anniversary for UN.
Yes.
And so what could be something that excited you?
I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Sure. As a child of the United Nations and as an international leader or whatever, and my parents from the country, because of our historic past and everything else, I totally believe that the United Nations, although people criticize it, it's not an organization like some of the small compounds of the banks. I don't want to name any bank, but it's not like a corporation or a company. These are the governments of many, many countries that are emerging, that are seeking support. And they're not seeking support like me, myself, for me. They're seeking support to the other countries of the world, the other nations of the world, to assist them. And yes, there's a lot we can do, and yes, there is a lot we cannot do. We are humans, and we have the limitations of space, money, travel, and finances. And of course, everybody asks, oh, UN, do this. Oh, the UN doesn't work because I didn't get that. And it's like God at Christmas. Oh, I don't believe in God. He didn't save my husband. He did my children crash in a car. Tragic thing. It's not God's fault. It's not an individual, because then like that movie I saw the other day, Bruce Almighty, it would be granting ridiculous consensus, $1 million, too many cars, blah, blah, things like that. And in reality, it's like, how can I serve you better? And how the United Nations, in spite of all of the criticism, all of the wars, all of the challenges, has managed to keep under one roof 3 months a year during the General Assembly all of the peoples of the world, with the delegations, with their people, with their... Everybody says, oh, it's glamorous, the ambassadors and the diplomats and the consul generals and DPL plates. No, if these are representatives, just like in the times of kings and queens, they are trying to negotiate for peace in their countries. They are trying to negotiate for the world into how to come together. So it's not an entity. It's not, I want to get a job at the UN, and it's like, I want to apply for Chase Manhattan Bank. It is finding out if your government, if the possibilities and your talents are equipped to deal with international integrity. And this is where I learned interfaith, interlanguages, intercultural, intercommunity, and I serve the community with information and share with others in different groups. And how I see interfaith coming is having people ourselves, and we always at the United Nations, and meeting more and more, to integrate and form more educational and come together and expose our people. And I'm thinking of having like an internet Q&A, and perhaps with this program we can have some response, and then the following week or the following month we can answer the key questions and have the people's input and giving us ideas on how we can serve better and how we can become interfaith in our community and at large. And yes, with the United Nations, because we're from all of the nations. We have to be united. We have no choice.
Yeah, it is actually the only place that, all the countries, I mean, not all of them, not 100%, but
the largest majority.
Some of the Buddhist countries are not part of it, but yet, it is the largest. And
it is the highest percentage of all of the countries that are under one time, because even the countries who are not part of the United Nations, they do not have their own conglomerate in which they get together to decide. Either they join the UN or they don't, or they're independent.
So that's why, but still, it's a important function as a kind of entire
amazing
world.
Function.
So hope for better.
Well, we hope that people's integrity and education, it could be like a focus of education, which it has for intercultural exchange and expansiveness.
So
Thank you.
Anyway, well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on futures, and I hope I wish you luck to your interfaith ministry.
And we're working together. Give me a high five. Yes, for peace.
So peace to you, and thank you very much for joining us again. And then this bell for peace, right? The sound for peace. Peace to you, and thank you very much for joining today. And thank you again for.
Thank you. My pleasure.
iTV, Call of Peace, Save Humanity.